All right. So the lab report assignment. Now, last semester, or at least in AMP1, we did several assignments where we looked at like making, say, an introduction or something like that. And then we kind of had another assignment where we dealt with something that was essentially this kind of cross between a results section and a conclusion. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're now going to put all of these things together. Now, one important aspect of this is that it is a teamwork assignment. We want you all working as a group to do this. One, to make sure that we can kind of share the load, but two, because working together is an important aspect of basically all careers. No matter what you're doing, you're going to have to deal with some people at some point, and you're going to have to learn to kind of work together. Okay. Now, part of that, though, is going to be making sure that you're pulling your weight in the group. One of the ways that we will assess this is that there is actually a teamwork assignment in addition to the lab report. And this teamwork assignment is going to do what it says it's going to do. It's going to look at whether or not you have performed well as part of your team. If your teammates all tell me that, hey, you didn't pull your weight in this, then I will likely have to believe them. Or at the very least, I will look at the results and stuff like that and see if it looks like, yes, I agree, this person didn't seem to pull their weight or something like that. Or if like one teammate says like, I had to write all this by myself or something. That is something that I will keep in mind and could reflect itself as part of your grade in this assignment. So make sure that you are doing your part. However, it does have to be in a group, okay? That is why I started those group messages before. Now, this is a grade. This is not optional. This is a grade. It is worth 10% of the lab grade. That's a pretty big chunk. So this is 5% of your overall score. So we want to make sure that this is done well. Now, I typically, because this is kind of your first chance writing all of this kind of stuff, or this style of stuff, I have made, or I will be somewhat generous when it comes to grading it. However, it is still a grade. It's still a pretty big chunk of your grade. So make sure that you are ready to do that. Now, it's due in a few days. So it's due on May 4th. I thought I had this video posted, but apparently the link that I had posted wasn't working correctly. So hopefully this will help alleviate some of those problems. Also, May 4th, Star Wars Day. Woo! For those of you that are nerds out there, Wilhelm scream. All right. No, technical guidelines basically just means we need double space, 1-inch margins. Is basically just makes it easier for me to read. It's probably going to be around 3 total pages, maybe a little bit longer, considering it's got figures in it, or at least one figure. One of those pages is going to be your literature cited page. So we must include citations in that literature cited page, and it will need to look like what we see here, where we have the last name of one of the authors, the initials of the first author. So last name here is Merriam. EN is their first and middle initials, comma, last name of the second author, their initials, comma, then an ampersand with the word and then last name, initials. And then finally, we have the year. Now, if you are using an article that has more than 3 authors, you can say et al. So you can say Marriott, Ian, Smith, LA, and Zal, PZ et al. 2019. But I actually do still want you to list at least the first 3 authors on any citation that you're using. For help on how to do that, I've included this little link right here, which includes step-by-step instructions on how to make a citation for a particular thing. Now, do not just use the Google Citation Manager. It doesn't work correctly. If you punch in APA format or something like that, and like, hey, spit out your citations in this, especially for websites and all that kind of stuff, it gets it wrong a lot. So don't do that. Utilize this link. The reason I've included the link and not instructions on each and every one of these is just because the link is going to do a better job of explaining it, even than I can in what I'm trying to be as a fairly short period of time right now. Okay. Now, when you're writing a report, everybody needs to be a part of it. Everybody needs to do their job. Everybody will also need to fill out the teamwork evaluation form. Okay. I have put in sample lab reports. You can use these along with the grading rubrics to figure out which of these is a good assignment, which one's not, because there are some not good examples in there, just because I wanted to see an example of what may not be a good score. So you can look at those and compare them to the grading rubrics to see kind of which ones are good and which ones are not. Everything's going to be put through SafeAssign. which is looking for plagiarism. It's also looking for the use of AI. Okay, so let's make sure we're not doing that. Let's write these on your own. This is basically like my goal here with this assignment is to have y'all work together in something, but is also to figure out, hey, do you understand the entire idea behind what we were trying to accomplish in this type of experiment? Okay. Do you understand what a urinalysis can and is used for, and why they are important and how they work? So because of that, it is basically a measure of, do you understand why and how, or why we use these, how we use these, and what it means when we use these and when we look at these results. I'm not looking for someone else's answers. I'm not looking for what it means to somebody else or anything like that. I need to use it, or I need you to do this so that I can understand that, oh yes, this person does have a good grasp of what we're trying to accomplish here. The stuff that is written is going to be far more important than the graphs and the figures and stuff like that looking good. Yes, I want them looking good. That'd be great. However, it is far more important that you show a mastery of the material and what it means, why it means what it means. Okay. Now, plagiarism in this case also means that we are not directly quoting anything. Okay. I do not want you directly quoting anything from anyone at any time. That is not good. That is not acceptable. That is not okay. If you directly quote something, that is automatically going to be plagiarism, and your entire report will receive a 0. We need to make sure that we are not directly quoting anyone. That is actually a problem in many of the examples, like the example lab reports. I need to update the examples over time so that I can get rid of some stuff like that, but that is a big no for me. So do not do that. Okay. If you do utilize information that is not common knowledge to anyone and everyone, which is to say you will, whenever you're doing something like that, we want to make sure that we are giving proper attribution to the authors that it came from, which means just write it down. So say you write a sentence and you're like, hey, such and such, or like, I understand this about this topic, or like, hey, this is how this system works, or this is how we could use a urinalysis. You just need to simply say from Schmidt et al. 2007, and then have in your literature cited page a citation that starts with Schmidt from 2007, and then all the other authors that were involved in that paper, and the name of the paper, and so on and so on and so on. Okay. But we always paraphrase whatever it is that we're saying. Okay. And here in a second, I will show you how to look up something like that. Okay. Now, the report is going to be about the urinalysis lab. Now, this is going to be the urinalysis virtual lab that we all did online, where we have our 3 subjects. You're going to tell me what happened. Okay. So explain materials and methods. Okay. So explain the methods of how we took the test. How did you take the sample? Taking the sample correctly in a urinalysis is very important. Now, in this case, because you did not actually take the samples, we have to assume that the samples were taken correctly, but you still need to tell me how a proper urine sample needs to be taken. Okay. So that is kind of an important aspect. You then need to tell me, how are the samples tested? Once you've told me how are the samples tested, you then need to tell me how you figured out the results of what those tests were. Okay. Now we're going to break this down into the introduction, materials and methods, results, and then finally conclusion, discussion, and the references. Okay. Now the introduction of a paper, if y'all remember from last semester, is going to need to be 3 particular paragraphs. Okay. Potentially 4 if you wanted to do it that way, but at least 3 paragraphs, not 1, not 2, at least 3. Okay. Where each paragraph has a specific job. The first paragraph is going to talk about the overall function of the system. In this case, we're talking about the urinary system. What does the urinary system do, and how does it do it? Okay. The second paragraph is going to say, okay, normally in a healthy urinary system, we will produce urine. That urine that is like normal healthy urine will contain X, Y, and Z things. It will not contain A, B, C things. So tell me about some of the stuff that you're not supposed to find in urine. Tell me about some of the stuff that you are supposed to find in urine. Okay. You could then maybe talk about urinalysis at this point. You could potentially even bring it up in the first paragraph. Okay. So if you wanted to say end your first paragraph by saying, normal kidney function and overall normal system or overall normal health. Because one great thing with the urinary system is that it's tied into so many other systems. And so the normal health of an individual can be oftentimes seen via a urinalysis where we look at the things that are found in the urine. Then you can say in the second paragraph, talk about the normal stuff that should be found in the urine, because the kidneys are able to filter out X, Y, and Z things, making sure that we find that stuff in the urine, but that we do not find other things like A, B, and C things in the urine. Okay. So basically talking about normal health for urine. Okay. Then the last paragraph should tell us what happens both in the experiment as well as some of the things that shouldn't be found. So in this case, we are looking at 3 individuals of 3 different health backgrounds and 3 different ages, and we're going to be checking their urine using this same urinalysis. We are looking to see if we find abnormal things in their urine. Okay. So what are some things that maybe shouldn't be found? Like we shouldn't find glucose, we shouldn't find blood, etc. And tell me about what that might mean for those patients if they were to have it. Okay. Now, that is the introduction. The materials and methods, also fairly straightforward. We're looking at, okay, what did we do? We took samples from these, we received urine samples from these 3 patients. A good urine sampling procedure looks like X, Y, and Z. Like this is how a proper urine sample is taken to make sure that things are going to work correctly. Okay. Once we have these 3 samples, so now we're talking about inside the virtual lab environment, what did you do? So how exactly did you get to knowing that this person had this particular viscosity of their urine or something like that? So what did we do? Okay. So you may need to go back and redo that virtual lab just to make sure that you can figure out what those things are. Okay. Now, importantly here in the materials and methods, you do not need to include the results or conclusions. You do not need to tell me that someone's urine was clear. You do not need to tell me that their urine was yellow or that it had glucose or that it did not have glucose. And especially don't tell me what that means here. You basically just need to tell me how to take a proper urine sample and then how we tested the urine samples that we had. Okay. Like we tested them using these 10 blot drop strips. Where we tested for these 10 things using this one particular strip. We dipped the strip into the test sample for X amount of time. What did you do at that point? Did you just immediately start reading? Did you lay it down on the table? Did you just immediately start taking results? How did you take the results? Like what happens? All of that kind of stuff. You need to kind of explain to me how that process works or worked. Even in the virtual lab. You don't need to tell me that you did it at the virtual lab. You just need to tell me kind of how that whole thing worked. Now, for the results section, this is where we need to kind of have a table or graph. The easiest way to do this for this particular lab is to be like, hey, like here is a graph of results for glucose. Here's a graph of results for viscosity. Here's, or not viscosity, but specific gravity. Maybe here's one for, excuse me, leukocytes or something like that. So you can just pick a couple of things where the 3 urine samples may have differed. Okay. And just present those graphs that way. 2 should be fine. Okay. You don't need to worry about having one graph that does everything. If you just look at 2 particular things that are tested in the test and you give me each of those, a graph for each, that's totally fine. Now, in the actual narrative part of this, you basically just need to tell me what the results are. Okay, so this is a narrative of your results. For patient 1, we had a glucose of this, we had a bilirubin of this, all that kind of stuff, and kind of work our way down through the list. You'll do that for patient 2, patient 3. Then you can also tell me that patient 3 had a glucose level that was X times the normal amount. So like if it was 3 times the normal amount that would be considered healthy, you can say it had a 3 times the normal amount of this. It had half the normal amount of this, or twice the normal amount of this, or had 20 times more than the normal amount of patient 1, or something like that, where you basically make some comparisons either to the normal or to one another. Okay. Don't just say it was more than this or less than this. Give me some sort of thing to say, hey, that you understand what some of these concentrations mean. Okay. Now, importantly here, you also do not tell me what this means. Just because someone has 20 times more glucose in their urine that say patient 3 has 20 times more glucose in their urine than patient 1, you don't tell me what that means yet. You need to wait until the conclusions and discussion to do that. Once you get into the conclusions and discussion, you can tell me what this means for each of these patients. You can say, okay, this patient had normal levels on everything, which means they're likely a perfectly healthy individual. So our urinalysis was able to show results that were consistent with a perfectly healthy individual. Okay. Patient 2 might have some sort of problem. Well, the urinalysis results of patient 2 of having an elevated X and a depressed value of Y tells us that this person could be in danger of having a particular disease or disorder because of X, Y, and Z. Like, because X is really, really elevated, this might mean that they have are in danger of having diabetes or something like that. If that's the case, you can't just say, hey, this person may have diabetes. You need to say they may have diabetes. Someone with diabetes may have a very elevated glucose in their urine because they're unable to reabsorb all of that glucose back into the blood or something like that because because the blood glucose levels are simply too high. Okay. So you do all of your telling me what all of these results mean here in the conclusion and discussion. Okay. So some of the talking points, like I said, are they all within normal value ranges? Yes or no? If not, what does that mean? All of that kind of stuff. How far away are they from normal? All of that fun things. Then finally, kind of broadening ourselves back out, then you can talk to me about like how useful are urinalyses as a tool for determining overall individual health. Okay. Then you're going to need at least 3 references. You have your textbook. That should always be one of your references. You need at least one internet credible source as well. Okay. So you have at least one from your textbook and then at least 2 other internet credible sources. I would prefer one of these to at least be a primary source. And let me show you how we're going to find one of those. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to look up, we're going to say Google Scholar. We're going to go to Google Scholar. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look for, say, urinalysis. And then we want to do something else that's very important. And that's we're going to type review. Okay. Here we have one of the great ones. I've used this several times as an example. This is urinalysis, a comprehensive review. So we're going to go ahead and look at this, open this up as a PDF. And look, we have everything we need. One cool thing that happens with these pages too is that you not only see what in-text citations are supposed to look like, although this is a Nature article, so it is less useful for that because they do it in this weird way. That's to say they use like these numbers here. I don't really like that in your papers. But then we can go down here and we can actually look at all of these different citations that these people have done. So just for this really short article, we have 38 citations. So don't think that I'm being particularly mean by asking you for 3, okay? I promise I'm not being that mean, okay? But this is a great one because this one may even tell you how to collect specimens, how dipstick analysis works. That's really, really useful, particularly because that's literally what this whole thing was about. So that means this is a fantastic particular article for you all to use in this. So I highly recommend using this one. And look, it's only got 3 authors. So Simmerville.ja, Maxted.wc, and Fahira.jj. And this was published in 2005, and so on and so on and so on. Okay. And it was published in the American Academy of Family Physicians, number 71, pages 1153 to 1162. Okay. So here is the rest of your citation information down here. So fairly straightforward, really great article. But if you're looking for something in particular, so if say you wanted to find, like, let's look up what's something we can find here. Diabetes and urinalysis. Let's look it up. Dipstick urinalysis for diabetes screening. Or the abnormal urinalysis. There's lots of different ways that we can find this stuff. So you simply click in one of these and see if there's information in here that you could find useful. Another great way of looking for stuff would be also to just say, hey, like review. So typing the word review means you're going to get a much more broad sort of overview of the kind of topic. So you might be able to find something new or interesting there. So that is a great way of looking for those. So hopefully this makes, oh no. Hopefully this helps make this stuff at least a little bit more straightforward on kind of what I'm looking for and how I expect everything to look and sound. There's also a reference here on how to utilize bibliography pages. We also have a writing lab here on campus. You can also access them virtually through the writing lab link in the Start Here module. They're very, very, very helpful. They will help make sure that your stuff is done correctly, so you can use those folks. They are very, very, very helpful. Here are the rubrics that I'll be using to grade these. All right, so all of that being said, if you have any questions about this or anything like that, just let me know. All right, thanks. Bye.